To another resin video. I have some new pieces to show you today, and then we'll be demoulding some dice as well. So from the last few days of pour, we have this resin coaster. Now I've painted it a little bit. You can see it much easier there than the original, which isn't too bad like this, but it's when obviously you've got glitter in there. Makes a huge difference. And this fantastic mould is from the Mouldy Tombstone on Etsy, and I've been really pleased with the quality of their moulds recently. And look at that looks amazing. I did use a white epoxy resin dye in this, along with a red, which was kind of meant to look like a blood splatter. But from the front you can't really tell it's there, so never mind, learning curve. We have some more of these little resin daggers that I've been making. I'm going to re-drill the holes in these and use them as keyrings, in addition to the keyrings that we made the other day, these ones. I now have these pink and white ones, again the white on the back, you can see there. It didn't really sink, even though I used the advanced alcohol ink. It just didn't sink as much as I'd hoped, although the numbers will hopefully be nice and clear. Then we move on to these little, I think they're supposed to be earrings, but they're pretty small, and with the powders in here you can't really see the hearts on them too well. So I tried with just the alcohol inks, and we have a huge amount of difference in the tone there, and the shading and stuff as well. So you can see that they're going to be much easier to paint than this one for sure. Amongst this lot, we also have a new. This is kind of a new technique, I guess. I had some leftover epoxy resin with mica powder in. It was kind of a ready mica powder that I used. As you can see, it's still a little bit floppy because it's still curing fully, so it's been out of the pressure pot. This has got about another day or so, I would say, before it's pretty much hard, so it's just curing some of nice and flat. But I swirled some epoxy in there, and I think that's given quite a nice effect there, more so on the back. But as it's a bookmark, potentially both sides would be seen anyway. The crystal that I made this time, this has come out quite nice, again with alcohol ink, and using a cocktail stick to push that through. And then the biggest piece that I have done so far to date in this mould. Now this mould's a bit of a beast. This is one from Amazon, and to be honest, I wasn't too sure about it. Some of the reviews were a bit worrying when I was reading them, so I decided not to do it all in one. I did it in two parts. So I filled resin to about here, and then cured it, and then continued on from there. So the idea is, I think it's supposed to be either an ashtray, but you wouldn't use epoxy resin for an ashtray, or I don't know, maybe like a jelly mold or something. I don't know if it's food safe or not. To be honest, I was never planning to use it for that. Anyway, so the end result, which was very tricky to get out, from this side, you can probably see a bit better the skull in there, which is pretty cool. So there's the skull. This layer here was the first cast, and then you can kind of see the line here, which I'm not overly happy with, but you wouldn't really see that from inside, and we can always paint some of the outside anyway. So inside, I poured clear glitter and epoxy, and then I laid a gold leaf on inside. There is some gold leaf in the outsides of here, but it's kind of a bit set in, like over here. But actually I'm pretty pleased with the way the flames have come out for the most part. As I say, the line, if you were using this as a dice gel, you're not really going to see that yellow line. It's interesting, but yeah, you wouldn't really see it. And the reason I think it's possibly meant to be a cigarette holder is here, or ashtray I should say. I don't even know people that smoke anymore, to be honest. But I did fill this in two pieces. With hindsight, I probably should have, I don't know, maybe just stuck to doing the tips potentially first, and then maybe a partial cure whilst it was still tacky, and then done another colour on top. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way this came out, using a mixture of mica powders and alcohol inks to get some of the effects around here, and then using clear epoxy pour in. I would recommend definitely doing this mould in 2 parts, and perhaps thinking a little bit more about the colour scheme, purely because some of the reviews that I saw for this were a little bit alarming, as I say, with people suggesting, we know epoxy gets hot when it cures, but not to the point that your mould should be smoking or anything like that. And obviously once it's in the pressure pot, there's not a lot you can do about it. So I would definitely recommend doing this in 2 parts. You'd much rather be safe than sorry. And as you can see, the mould is not warped or anything because I overdid it. If you're using an extremely deep pour resin, you might possibly be able to do it then. But either way, I wouldn't recommend doing it if you don't have. For things like this, the coasters, they're quite thin, so you know, that's fine to do in one sitting. Oh, and we have a cat here in the back here. How wonderful. So one gets in all over the place. But yeah, so we're going to pause just for a moment and I will get the dice. So continuing on with our demoulding, we have here the epoxy resin dice. Now these ones I used silver leaf, I guess you'd call it. You can see here where the epoxy's leaked out of the mould. That's fairly normal for a 2-part mould such as this one. This one, it's from Craft and Game on Etsy, and straight away I can see we have another bubble. That's very annoying. I don't yet know how to fill these, but that void happened earlier on the same dice face, I'm pretty sure. So there's not much we can do about it at this point, I'm afraid, I believe. So we will just continue with our demoulding, and we will curse about that secretly later. So I'm just snipping around the outside here, not actually the dice, and I'm not pulling at this here. And the reason that I'm doing that is because we had a couple of dice that I demoulded that had some defects to them, and I think it might have been because I got a little bit demould happy and pulled them potentially a little bit too hard from this to release them from the mould, and I think I damaged them in the process. So rather than waste perfectly good dice, or we hope they're perfectly good dice, it's much easier to snip around, to be a little bit patient rather than waste potentially good dice. Now you'll notice here that this one's naturally peeled away, so hopefully that's not damaged that one. Let's take a look here. So this one here is made with, this one is clear epoxy resin with a pinky purpley mica powder in there, I think, and some alcohol ink as well. So you can see the nice dice faces there. So we have got some twinkles in the corners. Hopefully they'll stay once we start sanding, because we don't want to sand away the detail. We just want to smooth the dice faces off. Now with any 2-part mould like this, you always get one dice face, this dice face here that faces up, that will be like a matte type thing, because the other sides that are inside the mould are shiny, which is how we like them. And we just very carefully, oh, that released itself, that's fine. Sometimes you get them pretty tricky to come out, and sometimes they come out a lot simpler. As you can see, the number 1 dice face, hopefully, there is matte, and the other sides are not. Now this is cloudy down here, and I can see something going on here. So this here, that's unmixed mica powder. I thought I'd mixed it pretty well, but that's showing me that I actually didn't. So that's something to note. I don't believe it affects the quality of the dice. It's just, it doesn't look great. As you can see, I mean, they're still quite nice dice to be fair, but that's definitely something I want to bear in mind for future. So that's the 6. Now, these ones are always tricky to get out because they're normally attached in the middle here. So, and you want to snip away and up, but without getting near the mould at all. So I'm just gently bending it in the middle there, because we don't want to turn the mould, because that would be bad. So that one is probably not going to want to come out at all. I could feel it release a little bit. And this one here, this one is the one that I've had difficulty with before. That's looked like it's either been dropped or eaten, but I'm pretty sure it's to do with me being a bit heavy-handed when tearing them from their mould. So excited to see what I've created and subsequently making holes in them, not the mould, the dice. And any, if you know, if you make dice, last thing you want is unusable ones. So whilst the ones with the voids in are not particularly pretty, they are not by any means unusable. They're just not as desirable to people. And if I keep coming up with failures like this, I'm going to have to start selling them before I end up with a house full of dice. I mean, not that I mind, but my husband might mind. So this one looks better, but we have the same thing going on here with the mica powder. So I might have to do a little bit more checking into why that's happened so much with this particular powder. This was a new one that I bought. Clearly, whilst I think I'm mixing it properly, I'm obviously not, because I wouldn't be getting clumps where it was unmixed. So I've been trying to stick to the same sorts of colour schemes within a dice set currently, because I have no idea what to ink a lot of these. And when I was doing contrasting colours with inside a dice, that leaves even less options for inking. So yeah, if you have any suggestions before I've actually inked them, that would be good to know. So there's the number 9 dice face, which is the matte looking one. And then I think we're pretty good. I don't think we've got any holes, but again, we have unmixed mica powder here, irritatingly. But I quite like how the silver's coming through. Potentially not enough of it though. And it is quite bright against that other colours. It makes the other colours look a bit muted, so that's interesting. So let's see if we can get these. Oh, last one's out. So one of the things that I have learned through my dice journey, we'll call it, is that if you use too much alcohol ink, it can prevent your dice from setting. Last thing anybody wants is unset dice. I have one set specifically that are not set, and they are now called my squishy dice, because they are still pretty squishy. Anybody who uses dice knows that they should not be squishy. Even if you feel like they should be squishy, they shouldn't. Anyway, they have one dice face that's almost virtually all but caved in. They're still usable. I've still painted them, but obviously they are less desirable because they are defective. So that's a great thing about static resin. It's great. Again, we have the silver coming through there. I hope that's silver in there and not unmixed epoxy. And then we have folded over something going on here. Not quite sure what that's about at all, actually. Oh no, that's the white. So I used some white in here. Oh, maybe that's the white then, not the unmixed. Maybe that it just sank. I don't know. But now I'm looking at this, I can see, do you see that in there? About here. Maybe that's the white. Okay, that's interesting. I think it is actually, because over here we have the white here too. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge because I can't really tell what's white and what's unmixed. And white alcohol ink seems to look somewhat different once it's inside of resin rather than sitting on the top. In here, you can tell quite clearly that's white sitting on the top there. You can't see it much from this side, but in the dice, undetectable to what it is exactly. I'll have to think about that for future. So, the last two, the one with the Mickey dice face, which I'm going to need to look up how to fix this, because now I have the last two sets that I have demolded from this mould, both have the same issue here on exactly the same dice face. There is a wonderful void, which you can see right there. Whilst, oh, actually there's two. There's another one. Yeah. So whilst that won't interfere with gameplay, particularly from that perspective, it's not real desirable look wise. And unfortunately, every single dice that I have demolded from this mould has a blemish or other, although we have managed to remove all of the bubbles from inside using my pressure pot to do that. So yeah, we will have to investigate and look into that for future. Obviously, if you've got any tips besides don't wiggle the lid top or wiggle the lid top, because I've tried both and have had the same problem either way, then yeah. But if you have any experience with this type of thing and you know that the secret, please do let me know in the comments. The D20, again we have the white here, which I previously would have said was mica powder, but actually I can see that now is a wiggly white bit. And the silver seems to have concentrated mostly in one part of the dice. That's fine. This is a pinky mica powder, like an iridescent pinky mica powder with clear, and within the clear is a white alcohol dye and a purple alcohol dye. So the purple, where it's quite thick, there's some nice effects going on there, and the same for the silver. I'm liking where some of the silver is in some of these. They still look pretty nice, I would say. They're just not perfect again. So we will I'll treat these the same as all my other dice that I've been working on, and I will ink these up and we'll get these sorted. These were the ones that I did the other day. These have now fully cured. Again, we have that iridescent red with a red. So we now have these red ones and these purpley ones. So who knows, maybe I'll think of a new colour to do. My previous ones include pink and blue. I've also done some green glitzy ones, which I've just recently inked in green, and my dark pink and blue set, which were much darker than this pink, which had too much epoxy dye in the alcohol ink, too much of that, and they are squishy. So these will remain slightly squishy still for the next, oh no, another blemish. Oh, I just spotted it right there, you see, in the 19, there it is, there's a dip. Sometimes you don't notice these until you start inking them, and sometimes you spot them before. Oh well, so there's 2 dice in every single one that has a blemish on it. Yay! Maybe I can put a random set together based on these. It's still completely usable, just a little bit more annoying. Now I have my pressure pot set up and everything, we shouldn't be having issues with bubbles. So we'll keep working on that, and hopefully I'll have some more demoulding for you in the next week or so. Cool. If you have any suggestions or comments or any types of coloured types suggestions that you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments. Likewise, if you'd like to know where I got some of my molds from, or if you have a particular preference or particular colour that you really like, drop me a note and I can let you know if I remember which colours I used or where I purchased the stuff from. And those of you who make dyes will know it's very difficult to stop fiddling with this stuff, but once it goes very hard, you don't want to fiddle with this because that becomes really sharp, and you do not want to get that caught under your nail or sit on it, probably, especially in leggings. But yeah, so we will get this mould washed out and ready for another pour soon. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, or if you know a secret, then please do let me know down in the comments. Thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.